everybody. I'm Becky Fawcett, a mom by adoption, an infertile blonde, a female founder, and an entrepreneur. Podcast rulebooks say your introduction has to be the same for every episode, and I was just laughing because I hate that. And it's my podcast, so I can do whatever I want, and my intro is not going to be the same every time. Along those lines, for most of my life, I tried to be perfect and do what everybody else was doing. And then I tried to have children, and that's the plot twist. And then I realized perfect was boring. Now I look for any opportunity to be different. I'm an outspoken advocate who wants to change the world, and it does get me into trouble here and there. However, for the most part, it helps me make real connections with real people. Welcome to my podcast, The Fawcett Report. I'm so glad you're all here today. And today I'm really excited because adoption has connected me with a lot of different people in the past 18 years. And some of them, when I find out they're adopted, like my guest today, I'm like, oh my God, I wonder if she'll ever talk to me. And not only did she talk to me, we became friends for a long time. She is an actress, a singer, a producer, and a podcast host. And she's known for her Broadway performances in The King and I and Waitress, and legendary for her role of Tina Cohen Chang on the epic series Glee, which will forever live on in everybody's brain. And she received a Grammy Award nomination for that. She's a two-time Tony Award winner for her work as a producer on the Broadway musical Once on This Island and the Broadway play The Inheritance. She was born in Seoul, South Korea, and her name is Jenna Ushkowitz. She was adopted at the age of 4 months and raised in East Meadow, New York. Her parents are amazing, and I've met them in person, and they adore their daughter. She has an older brother, Greg. Long story short, she's incredible. The list goes on as to what she did, but I think you all want to hear from the woman herself. Please meet my friend, Jenna Ushkowitz.
Hi, Becky.
Welcome. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. You're a busy woman.
Yeah, I'm a busy woman. So are you.
Oh my gosh.
We're both busy women.
We're both busy women, but you're in a different thick of it than I have teenagers, which is different and a lot of work, but you're in the thick of it with little guys.
Yes. I have a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old.
Yeah.
So
and they can't really make it through the day without you.
No, not at all. One of them can't even survive without my milk.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Mine, at least I can send out the door. They just message me they need money, and that's fine. But
that's what I have to look forward to. Got it.
They can feed themselves. They can get to and from places.
Yeah, they need you in a different way now.
Yeah, they need me in a different way. But I'm so grateful you're here. It was true. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, do you think she'll talk to us? And I'll ask anybody anything. I'm not afraid to hear the words no. You did talk to us.
Yes.
Do you remember it?
This is so long ago. What was the first interaction? It was around the time that I had Kindred, my foundation, with my friend Sam Futterman, who is also a Korean adoptee. And we were just meeting people and change makers in the community of the adoption community. And I remember connecting with you and Sam and a couple of other founders centered around adoption. And so that's the main memory I have of the timing of it. Do you remember it?
Yeah, no, I think that was it. And a lot of the time when I have first conversations with people, they're like, what do you want from us? I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even know if you're going to know what we're doing, right? But I knew, first of all, I knew what we did at Help Us Adopt was pretty special. So those of you listening, that's what I do full time as I run helpusadopt.org. But I'm not an adoptee. I'm a mom of 2 adoptees. Have just had innate good gut feelings that I was leading a charge that many adoptees would be proud of. I'm an advocate for open adoption. I'm in a sense that domestically that has a different wording and meaning than in your case as an international adoption, but open adoption in the sense of transparency and in the sense of everybody deserves to know their story to the best of the availability of the details. Just empowering adoptees to be great and share these stories. And I was like, maybe they'll like what we're doing because of my approach to it all. And I knew that was important to you guys, is adoptees being seen, right? And being heard.
Yeah, there are so many amazing organizations that can do the things that these families emotionally already have so much to deal with can do. They can help financially, they can do all of these things, but meeting people face to face and having you as the face of this organization, have through the process yourself in a very meaningful way. And then I remember us having coffee on the Upper East Side once and you sharing your story and being so open about the open adoption and about your infertility and about all of your experience, that's the kind of person you want leading the church because they've been through it, they care about it, and they're talking about it, which is a huge part of it. And I think when people would approach us about adoption and especially being on the show and talking so openly about being adopted, I think anybody else who was talking about it in that way, I was like, yes, please, let's do something. Let's talk. Let's put our heads together because it's just so important.
Yeah, no, it was great. And I was honored that wanted to just hear what we were doing. And again,
of course,
usually never know where things are going to end up, but that's the brain of an entrepreneur. I just know I'm on the right road. And
right.
the things present themselves if they're meant to be. So the funny thing is this, let's talk a minute about your kids and the fact that you really sort of are a megastar in this special world of Glee. And I know you don't walk around the world saying you are, but you are. Do your kids, I mean, your daughter's 3, so she's not that, but does she do? You must be out and about with her and someone will stop and be like, oh my God, you're Jenna.
Luckily, I don't think she even notices it yet. Luckily, I think she's still blissfully unaware out in the world if people recognize me that who's this person talking to my mom? But I think about it because I have to prepare her for it. And I've tried to shield her as much as possible from all of it in the most protective way possible. But she is learning now that I do things that like I'll play my songs for her and we'll watch videos of me from the show. We're not quite there yet, luckily, but I'm trying to avoid it. At all costs.
Oh it'll be interesting when they're old enough and then their friends are like, wait a minute, I love watching that show. What do you mean that's your mom?
I know.
Yeah. But you played a role in history. It's cool. I think that show will always have that iconic role. And the fact that you and Kevin are still friends and do your podcast together, I just think is
yes.
That's what those are the moments life's supposed to be about.
That's what this is all
along
about.
The way, and it's lifelong.
Yes, exactly.
And then you were a waitress on Broadway, and I do have to admit, total regret seeing you on stage here. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know how I didn't.
It was so short. It was so fast and so short, but it was so much fun. I loved it so much. Yeah,
it was great. And then the year that we honored you was 2017, and we gave you the Voice of Adoption Award at our New York City Face of Adoption Gala.
Yes.
And did you ever think growing up that, okay, so I'm adopted, maybe you did or didn't know what that meant back then as a kid. Could you have ever possibly thought that there's going to be this national organization with a global presence that says, we think you're the voice for this night. We think you're the voice for this night. We want to honor you because of who you are and the trail you've blazed for other kids to grow up, adopted or not. To say, I want to be her. Look what she did.
That's so nice.
I mean, it's cool.
And I'm so grateful for it. I think it's my one and only award for adoption. So that's pretty cool because
I like to do that. I don't like to be a copycat. I like to do things that no one else is doing. So that's good when you're only
that. I know this.
I like that.
I know this. Yeah, it was really special. And just my parents being able to be there and be celebrated for that as well, I think is so meaningful and meant so much to me. And to be in a room where everybody was there to support adoption and to talk about it was also, no, you couldn't have told little Jenna that would have been something that she would be recognized for. Because all of these other accolades and awards that I've received in my life, you do a lot of self-work as you become an adult to not be wrapped up with your worth in external praise. And for something that is so deeply embedded in who I am or what shaped me, to be awarded for that is just so meaningful.
I love that. It's funny because I think, without speaking for you, I know the answer to this question as an adoptee of your age, because people said the same thing about my kids. and I know my labels, is people say, why are you labeling your kids as adopted? And why do you keep calling yourself a mom by adoption? And you keep saying you built your whole career now on motherhood, being a mom by adoption. And I'm like, who told you that those labels were bad? They're descriptors of who we are. And quite frankly, I love my label as by adoption. I wear that label so proudly. And I think it's like, it is part of who you are. And recently I've had a few people being like, don't take things personally. I'm like, my life is personal. It's all personal. This is who I am. These are who my kids are. So you'll forgive me. I'm building my success on taking things personally. And I think more people need to take things like the label of adoption and mom by adopted and adoptive family personally, because we can celebrate it in such a beautiful way that generations before us didn't.
Yes.
And that leads me into your parents, because especially your dad that night back in 2017, I went over to him and welcomed him and your mom to the event. But your dad was the one. Your mom might have been a little overwhelmed by the emotion, because it was a big night. And your dad was too. But he said to me, for you to recognize our family for this is so meaningful, because she's just our daughter, you know? And that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But he realized that when you're a family by adoption, people are sometimes like, oh, they're a family by adoption. It's whispered. It's talked out of the corner of the mouth. I'm the lunatic singing it from the mountaintops, because
as you should be,
as we all should be.
We all should
be.
Yeah.
So I just think it is so cool. And now I want you to tell everybody your adoption story, the way you want it to be told and the way you celebrate it.
Yeah. When people ask me my story or ask me about me, it's like one of the first things that I talk about, because I wear it as a badge of honor and pride that like I was adopted, and this is a really cool story, and look where I am, and look how I built my life and how my family helped me build this life, including my birth mother. Like, she's a part of it. So I think that it's one of the first things that I'm happy to offer about myself. And I was born in Seoul, Korea, and in 1986, and adopted at 4 months old. My mother had, I believe, 3 miscarriages before they went into the adoption process. My mom had said that she'd always wanted to adopt in addition to having her own children. So this was something that was on the table for them since the beginning. And she has a son who's my brother from her first marriage, and my dad had a daughter who's my stepsister from his first marriage. My brother and I grew up in our house together, though, so that, you know, we're very close. From the time I can remember, I always knew I was adopted. It was never a secret. It's hard when you're an Asian adoptee and your father's Sicilian and your mother is Irish and English and your brother is half Puerto Rican, Filipino, white, English. We're like the United Colors of Benetton in our family. And so it was hard to get around. And growing up, it was like, again, it was always something that I wore with pride. And I don't know that every adoptee felt that way. But for me personally, it was something that was always a really cool fact about me. I always felt love and so supported. And my mother and father always taught me, like, your birth mother, she didn't give you up. She chose, whether she liked it or not, to give you the chance for this life. So I look at it as a second chance, and I look at it as a gift. And my mother always said that I was her gift to her. So there's this like beautiful circle happening where you can look at it as being abandoned and being left, and all those things can be true, right? People can feel the way they want to feel, are very justified to do. But for me, I just wanted to frame it in a way that was, I was lucky enough to get the life that I was given because everybody chose for me to be there. Everybody chose for me to give me this opportunity and wanted me there. You know, in school, obviously, growing up, being Asian on its own is hard in a lot of ways. And being a woman and Asian in this world is hard in a lot of ways. But then being adopted and not looking like your parents and getting the questions of like, why don't you look like your parents? And why don't you look like them? It's all very nuanced, and there was a lot of learning to be done. But I really do think that learning and growing a really thick spine at a really young age bode well for me in the future and where I am now.
I think it's so interesting what you just said about it was obvious with your family that you were adopted.
Yeah.
My family, not so much. My kids, 2 open adoptions domestic, and my kids look like they came out of my body, which
Right.
is something I just look at every day and go, how the hell did that happen? But that's the miracle of our adoptions, that it happened that way. But here's what I think is interesting. You say you didn't have a choice but to tell the world. Our family didn't have to tell the world anything. And here's where I'm different. I told my kids at an early age, we tell everybody we're a family by adoption. Now, I tell them as my role as an infertile woman who adopted, because I want my story and my struggle, A, to be transparent, and B, to give hope to someone behind me who thinks they can't get through this. That's why I share so crazily transparent. I just want someone else to feel that I'm there with them, because I felt all alone.
Yeah.
But I want my kids to be proud of being adopted. So they don't have to tell anybody. And they tell everybody, because in our family, it's celebrated. And I'm like, this is what makes you you. You have a great story before you even took your first breath. Wait a minute. This is cool. And we have open adoption, and they have half siblings.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
It's funny because I meet other families like, why do you tell everybody? I go, we shouldn't hide this. And just because you don't know it looking at us, that doesn't mean it's not something we want to talk about. It is something we want to talk about. I love it. I love that it's just a new generation. And I will climb on your comment there is, I know everybody doesn't feel this way. Many past generations were wronged. If we want to, we can talk about the current news about Korean adoptions. My heart breaks for anybody, birth mothers, anybody who feels from past generations or even today that they were wronged by the process of adoption and the secrecy and the shame. But my butt is this. Use that anger for advocacy work and to make the world a better place. Do not tell my kids that they have to be angry too, because it's not their story. And that's what we face out there in the public eye. And I want to acknowledge all of the pain, and I would listen to anybody who wants to tell me how awful it was. But it's your story, not mine. And you can't tell other generations of adoptees that they have to be miserable too about something. And that's where I get frustrated as a mom by adoption and an advocate out there. But I do tell people to listen to the anger. I go, it shouldn't be directed at someone. The anger is real and it's justified. It really is justified in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that everybody's story is different. No adoption story is the same. So to generalize, exactly, any person, to generalize that notion of what adoption is and how people should feel or what they should think or what we think of them, I think is wrong. I think that we have to listen and be open to all of the truths that are out there and exist. In terms of the Korean adoption news that has come out in the recent months is devastating. It's really sad. And for me, growing up, knowing that Korean adoption is its own thing, there were so many adoptees being sent over to the U.S. and other places, of course. It was, for me, always known. Like, I always knew. And maybe I'm in the younger side of those generations or somewhere right in the middle. That wasn't new news to me. Like, I had met many adoptees over time that had the wildest stories of searching for their birth parents, finding their birth parents, finding out all these crazy things that happened along the way. And the birth date was wrong on the record. The mother's phone number was wrong. That wasn't the real name of their mother. It runs the gamut. But I think knowing that Korean adoption, like the shame and the societal guilt that they feel about adoption, that never changed. And I always understood that. I always knew and joked about it in this weird, dark way of my birthday could be wrong. We don't know. But we celebrate my plain day or my gotcha day. And we celebrate my birthday in the way that we know it. And that's my truth. That is what it is. Doesn't mean that it can't be sad at the same time that people were ripped from their families and thought to have a totally different story told. No, they deserve to feel all the things. And adoptees as a community have the right to mourn that and grieve that. But I in some ways, it's thank God the truth is coming out and people are talking about it, painful or not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's funny People ask me all the time because we have 2 open adoptions. My daughter Jane is 19 and my daughter Brooke is 15. That's a long time. And I worked really hard to keep these things open. And we talk about it when we're together, all of us. Some of my friends are like, why do you work so hard? Like, when you had a moment to let it go by the wayside, which, believe me, I had plenty of pauses over the years where I could have been like, that's the end of that. And I just knew. And I tell people, I go, because we all deserve better.
Yes.
And our adoptive family stories are no more turbulent and rocky than my regular family stories, to be fair. And I know not all open adoptions can work the way mine two do. And so that's a fair point too. Again, but this is my truth, right?
Yes, exactly.
I get to be the queen leading the ship. We all deserve it. And we're all better for it. And the person who's really better for all this is me. And I never saw that coming. I'm the luckiest piece of the puzzle here. And I watch it. And I even watch my children's bio grandparents get to play a role. We're really showing the world. I'm sorry. I want to show the world how this can be done and what we should maybe try to always do.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's a different way to do it. And sometimes it's not possible, but let's talk about the openness and the factors that we can talk about. And
yeah, if you can.
Let people know that these pieces still matter and they're still important, even if it's not the answers we all want. Because my youngest daughter, her birth mother died when she was 8. She asked me once, she goes, why aren't you mad? I go, what made you think I wasn't mad? I'm furious she died. Yeah. I'm furious. I didn't sign up for that. I didn't want that for you. I didn't want that for her. I wanted I want her to be here.
Right.
To see you. I want to be here to say thank you for making me a mom the second time. And my daughter was like, I didn't realize we were allowed to be mad. I'm like, you of all people are really allowed to be mad.
Yeah, exactly.
And these are important pieces and she won't be the first domestic adoptee who lost a birth parent.
No.
And I said, maybe this is your talking point. Maybe this is where you can form a group and help other people in your shoes. But I just keep thinking there's nothing wrong with being transparent and it's all good. Helps us be better, maybe. So one of the things that I do with my kids, if you're up for it, is I do these quick fire questions.
Yeah.
And I love it. And I was just telling someone in my office today that I'm going to make them do it too. Because it's fun and it really gets people thinking about this. So are you up for it?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Ready?
Yes.
Best thing about being adopted?
My family.
Worst thing about being adopted?
Medical history.
The one thing you want to change about adoption?
The negative light in which it is painted.
The one thing you want the world to know about adoption?
It is so joyful.
The most important thing to you about adoption?
That my story is mine.
And I'm going to add one specifically for you.
Okay.
How do you envision yourself telling your kids about your story?
Oh my gosh. I think about this a lot, actually. I think I'll tell them as soon as they can understand it. Like my daughter, I think I'll try to explain it as soon as I can. She goes to school with a little girl who's adopted, and
that's wonderful.
It's beautiful, and their story is beautiful. And so I think the more we can verse our children in normalizing this wonderful story, I think it makes the world go round. So I think for her, as soon as I can, I'm going to share it with them as much as they can understand that I was a gift. I was brought here as a gift, and I was given so much opportunity. And yeah, the thing I think about more so is like them asking questions when they're old enough and their curiosity piquing about my birth family, because I don't have an open adoption. I don't know if my parents are still alive. I don't know their story. And so I am curious in a very small way, whereas I don't know if their curiosity is going to be much bigger than mine, which it's fine and great if it is, because that's their lineage too. So I'm curious how curious they're going to be.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. It's funny. My daughter Jane and Brooke both have similar things with you about the worst thing about being adopted, but they phrased it differently. So Jane said, there's nothing hard about being adopted. What's hard is the way the world reacts to stigma. And I was like, can I make that into a graphic with the book? Like, I was like,
That's good.
She's mom. You have made this so easy. Like I've never not known I was adopted. It's
Right.
like we talk to Victoria all the time. I see Victoria. This is just part of who I am. But when the world hears I'm adopted, they put on the brakes and they raise an eyebrow and then they start whispering. And Brooke said the worst thing about being adopted is when she meets another adopted kid and she wants to talk about it. And they're like, no, we don't talk about this.
Oh, so
and
interesting.
she's so upset. She's so upset.
Wow.
She got to grow up in a family where it's celebrated and her peers are not. Mom, why is that happening? I go, it happens and we'll just support them and keep talking about it.
Wow.
That's all we can do. But it's interesting. It's very interesting. Some people say they were adopted and it's done. I'm like, oh my God, that was the court hearing. They're adopted for life. I'm infertile for life. This is like a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tie this now beautifully into it is a lifelong journey. And when you had kids and got pregnant, how was that as an adoptee? Like this, I've heard from a lot of adoptees, both men and women, that when they had biological children, it was a life-changing experience for many ways and something that they were just very curious to experience because it was different than what they'd grown up with.
For sure. It took me a while to wrap my head around it, but also I wasn't thinking about it. I think that growing up, people had thought, oh, you must want to adopt because you were adopted. And I said, no, not necessarily. If I can't have children of my own, it's definitely something I would consider, but it's not necessarily my first thought when I think about having children. So there was that notion that I thought was interesting. Not that I wouldn't do it, but I wanted to have children of my own or try. When I got pregnant, it wasn't the thing I was thinking about until my daughter was born. And my husband said to me, "This is your first blood relative." And I thought, oh my God.
Yeah, that's it.
And it did not faze me. And of course, I'm in postpartum, my 4th trimester, like already weepy and gross. And I'm like, wow, you're right. That's crazy. So it really took me a long time to even get there. And I'm sure subconsciously it was there, but it really took me a long time to get there. And when it did, it was earth-shattering, truly earth-shattering. I write a letter to my daughter every year on her birthday. So 3 letters so far. And the first letter includes that meeting you was like earth shattering for me. It's earth shattering to meet your children, no matter how you have your children.
Yeah.
But for that element was so profound and still is to this day. It's so beautiful and so exciting to me. And when I tell people, they're so enthralled by that. It's such a novelty to them, but in the best way. But I really, really, really powerful and really special. Being an adoptee, I feel very connected to my family. I feel connected to my chosen family of friends and people that I bring into my circle. When you have your children, everybody feels a certain level of connection to begin with or not. I think that's also normal when people have children via surrogate, via adoption, naturally, however you want to say it. I think that there's a period of time where you're like, do I feel connected to this little thing? Do I not? But over time, it's just opened up my world 1,000 times. There's like massive magnifying glasses in front of me that I'm like, wow, these children are mine and they're me. And it's the first time I can say or experience somebody saying, oh, that she really looks like you.
Yeah.
I've never had that. And so it was really special for me not having that growing up. And so that was really earth-shattering.
It's so funny because I am going to share my experience here because it's obviously the direct polar opposite. But it's so similar. It's so similar. And that's what's so cool. So I grew up thinking it's going to happen easily. And I have my grandfather's nose and I have my dad's teeth and I have my mother's hands and the cellulite on my thighs is my mother's. Thank you very much. No matter how thin I am, there it is, genetic. Mm-hmm. And then it didn't work. And no one talked about adoption 20 years ago in my shoes. And I was like, how's this going to work with someone else's biology? And I was like, I can't worry about that, no matter how terrifying that is, because I have to be a mother and this is the road. So that's the end of that. We're just going to keep marching and it's going to work out. I have to believe it's going to work out. And so when my kids asked me, and the press or whoever asks me, what's the one thing you want the world to know about adoption? It's so easy to love a child that didn't come from your body.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it at all anymore. Like within an hour of Jane being in my arms, and I was in the delivery room when she came into this world, which was cool. And I tell people also, I thought I was going to do IVF again for my second child. And after being Jane's mother for a while, I was like, oh, I get it. I don't need to do that again. And I chose to adopt the second time. The first time I got, I'll be honest, that was how I had to do it because that's where the road led. But the second time I had a choice.
Wow.
And I chose adoption. And now I just laugh because people are like, because I've told my kids, like, if you don't want to have kids, it's fine with me. And my friends are like, oh, what do you mean? You have to be a grandmother. And I'm like, I don't actually. I had to be a mom. And they're like, but the family I go, we don't stop. We don't have family genetics. It doesn't matter. I will never, even if my children decide to have biological children, I will never be related by blood to another human being ever on this planet. And my friends go, and I go, stop. It's fine. It's a cool story, actually. It's a very powerful comment, right?
Yes. Yes.
Not how I thought my story was going to go.
No.
I don't care. So I love, like, you had a different front load experience.
Yes.
I had a different back end, but it's very similar. Like with the things that you come to, and powerful and interesting. And one of my girls says she's never having kids. And I think she might not be so wrong now that I know her. Fine. Whatever. She can change her mind.
Yeah.
And my other child is I'm adopting. And I'm like, well, you don't have to. You do know that. And she goes, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I need to do that.
Interesting.
So I have no idea what's going to happen, you know?
Totally. I didn't feel like I needed to be a mother until much later in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
now I knew from like teenager, I knew.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It wasn't soon, but I knew. Yeah. Like I knew this was something I had to do, but I don't know. I just love hearing all these stories because that's it. It's an individualized journey. And I always say, especially in the adoption circles, I think if we all shared the truths without screaming at each other and saying, I'm more important than you are, which is what happens. And I don't like that. I think we would all realize we have more commonalities than we give each other credit for. And that's fascinating to me. It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
And then we just have to encourage our kids to go do whatever the hell they want.
Our job is not to mold them or to make them or to force them to do things that we want them to do. Our job is to help them grow into who they are as mothers.
And to make good decisions.
And to be good people.
To teach, and to teach them to be a thought out
to hate, because to hate
human.
is, you learn how to hate as you learn how to be good. So ultimately, I'm not here to make her do things that I want her to do unless it's to keep her safe and protect her. Yeah. That's it.
It's very interesting. I love it all. And I love how transparent you are and you share everything. So as a mom, do you do things or incorporate like any family traditions that you had growing up, or are you guys starting some of your own, or what does that look like? You're very health conscious. I do know this. And I'm always like, oh my God, she's so good about making healthy food for these kids. My kids, it's all my fault. Like it's terrible food. It's not my thing at all, but I'm very impressed by you. That's a big commitment.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you're into it.
I like it. So I feel like that's why I do it. You know what I mean? It's something I enjoy. I like cooking for them. I think my husband and I, we both really bonded initially when we first met. When we started dating was because we both really clung on to this idea of chosen family. He has like a really interesting story as well. He's not adopted, but he was raised by his mother. And we both really have this very inclusive feeling of like non-traditional families and friends. But we like to create our own traditions and do things that feel good for us and feel right for our family. Ultimately, that's being parents is making the decision you think is best for all of you or for them. I like being healthy. I like cooking their food. I do, of course, my daughter asks for a lollipop every single day. And of course, how do you say no? We do it in moderation. We really want to incorporate like my Korean heritage.
I was just about to ask you if that's the
more.
piece. Yeah, because I think that's so cool.
Yeah, we do the like traditional, it's called like a doljabi, and it's on their first birthday where you put out all these items and they can predict the future in a way based on which item the baby chooses. And I did that when I was growing up. And so we did that for my daughter, and we'll do it for my son when he turns one.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love it. And I like that idea of just incorporating really cool things. Of course, we love Korean food. So food is always in our vocabulary.
It's a love language.
Yes, definitely.
Language.
My husband, me, and my husband is also half Jewish and half Mexican. And so our kids are like a little melting pot, which we love. And so we're definitely incorporating Mexican traditions as well that he had when he wants to just have our kids really in touch with who they are, even more so than we did growing up, because we were both kind of hodgepodges. And I didn't grow up Jewish. I grew up Catholic. And it's been really fun learning myself and then showing our kids the Jewish culture. And especially right now, I think it's important to really own who we are and own who they are. Yeah, little things like that. I mean, we haven't really dove into like bigger things, but I think we're starting as a family now because they're so young to create those really fun traditions for everybody.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think where I am in my life is slightly ahead of you, but I'm behind a lot of my friends in the timetable. And I see with some of my friends the commitment to stay at home mom and now what's next for them as they re-enter the workforce and how hard that is. And I think this is something that women in general have to face versus men, obviously. But you're also in an industry that's tough here. Yes. So how has all that been for you of making the commitment? You're all into motherhood, and I respect and love that so much. But I'm sure you're not done yet with the other half of your life in any way, shape, or form. And what does that look for you when you're sitting down thinking about your life as Jenna, right? And mom.
Yeah. It's a really good question. I feel like as Jenna, I accomplished a lot of the things I wanted to accomplish in that first chapter, pre-motherhood, I'll call it. And that really lent to me leaning into motherhood in these early stages because I wasn't splitting my time with, I still have these massive goals that I want to accomplish. I'm so grateful I was accomplished and check a lot of those things off my bucket list early. That's not to say that I don't feel a massive identity shift now, and that wouldn't have happened regardless. After becoming a mother, your priorities change, where you want to be, your time management also. Yeah. And so the second half of like post-motherhood, of really owning my identity and reclaiming myself again, is all about really intentional work. It's about showing my children that when I'm gone from them, I'm doing things that I love, that I choose, and that I know will make an impact, because otherwise I'd rather just be home. I'd rather be home with them. Yeah. But I want them to see, and my husband and I have talked about this pre-children, like we want them to see that we can, and especially for me as a woman, go out and work and still be a mom and do both, and to see us do things that are important to us versus just doing them as a job. That said, with the entertainment industry and the state it is in of complete turmoil, I've taken a turn, and I joined the team of a company called Asian American Girl Club. We're building and scaling the company into a membership club for Asian American women and allies and friends that provides community and mentorship and connection. And so we're really excited about it. It feels like the right move for me in building the future as an Asian American woman and girl I want to see for my kids, and also wish I had growing up.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I never took a break.
Wow.
It wasn't an option, to be honest with you. I live in New York City. It was just not an option. I also, to be honest, I tell my kids, because they were always like, why can't you just be normal? Like every other mother. I go, because I couldn't. And that staying home is the hardest job. I have been in PR. I have been in advertising. I'm now in the nonprofit fundraising. I've been in some tough communities.
Yes, you have.
Tough industries. I don't think my job is anything to full-time stay-at-home mother. I think that is the hardest job. I'm not wired for it. And I'm aware enough to know that I can't do that. But I also was able to tell my kids, it's so more moms have their Jane and Brooks.
Yeah.
I was able to say what you're doing now with this Asian Girl Club, that's amazing. And I think if we're lucky enough to find something like that, then that's great.
Yes, totally.
But I also learned, I talked about this on a different podcast, how to apologize to my kids. Because sometimes it's not always perfect. Totally. And they're like, you're apologizing? I'm like, yeah. Does it work? They're like, oh, yeah, because I didn't know that was coming yet.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not there yet. You're not there yet. But it's a big thing. A lot of grown-ups don't apologize. Period.
No, and we started in the house now. Little things. Our 3-year-old is very with it, and she gets it. And we're not perfect. Our parents are not perfect. We're human. We make mistakes. For them to see it now, for us to be apologizing to them now, it sets the tone and the precedent for how we want to raise our children. Yeah.
I love talking to you and hearing about all this. And thank you so much for your friendship over the years and for being so open and honest about your story and for loving what we do here at Help Us Adopt. And I hope to see you again. I'll be in LA in the fall, so I'll let you know when I'm coming out.
Yes, please.
Tell everybody, please, where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm Jenna Ushkowitz, Jenna Ushkowitz on most platforms, but I mainly live on Instagram, so you can find me there. I'm on TikTok as well as at Jenna Ushkowitz, and you'll find me more at AsianAmericanGirlClub.com as well.
30 Seconds with Becky Fawcett. Today, you heard my conversation with Jenna Ushkowitz, a Korean adoptee. And I think the message from today's conversation, and pretty much maybe every conversation I have with anybody, is let people tell their own story, because we all have a different one. A lot of people like to make judgments about what your story should be based on how you look, based on where you live, based on anything that's outside of you that they think they can define you with. And the bottom line is what you look like on the outside is only half of it, maybe not even half of it. I'm so grateful to always embrace my own story details and help my children live their truths, to embrace their story details. And not everybody's details are pretty, but they're honest and they're theirs. Live your own truth. 30 Seconds with Becky Fawcett. Thank you for listening to the Fawcett Report. I'm so glad you were here today. And here's to seeing the world a little differently and possibly using your voice to make a difference. You can follow the Fawcett Report on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And you can message me on Instagram or Facebook. And I will actually respond as long as you're not mean. You can disagree with me. You can share your point of view, but you can't be mean because I don't do mean. And finally, if you're curious about my adoption advocacy and family building work through helpusadopt.org, you can find us there on Instagram and Facebook, as well as through the website, helpusadopt.org. See you next time.